The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Taking a relationship to the next level. This is Passion with Dr. Laurie.
Welcome to Passion, a show about love, sex, and relationships. Tonight, it is our monthly feature we call Dating Dilemmas. So once a month, we talk about all things dating, answering all of your dating questions. And joining us in studio is Fritz-Gerald Morisseau, founder and president of EliteSpeedDating.com, or Elite Speed Dating, and Frank Kermit, who is a dating coach, the author of many books on the subject, from FrankTalks.com. And they're both here to answer some questions and have some good discussions. And tonight's discussion, we thought we would focus on why it is, and I was reading studies and articles about this, that good-looking people somehow seem to have a harder time dating. And I find that quite fascinating because it goes against what we would normally think, that, oh, you're good looking? Oh, yeah, sure. You probably have no problem dating. And I don't think that's the case. And so Frank decided to do a little online poll on Facebook. You got quite the response, I see.
Boy, did I ever. It was a great question. I simply said, the reasons that really good-looking people still can't get a date. And in brackets, I said, hey, let's just have some fun.
And?
Well, the discussion got very heated.
So it wasn't so much fun in the end. What were people, why do you think it got heated?
I think the first thing that happened was people said, well, if somebody's good looking and they're single, there's something wrong with them. And it seemed almost like an attack. They started bashing people. Well, if someone's good looking, and they went into every stereotype. If someone's good looking, then maybe they're full of themselves and they're conceited and they're arrogant. And then other people were writing and saying, now, wait a minute. You know, could it just be that maybe somebody who's really good looking isn't conceited and arrogant? In fact, a lot of people who work very hard at being very attractive don't always feel they're attractive enough.
Right, that insecurity sometimes that's there. But isn't it interesting that there is a stereotype of good-looking people? Like, we judge people. Like, we often say we'll judge people on their looks, but you know, we don't think of judging people on their good looks. We just judge people on, oh, this person's too skinny, too fat, too old, too young, too wrinkled, you know. But we don't tend to think about that. We actually judge often good-looking people.
Good-looking people face a different stigma. And although it's different, it is still a stigma. And yes, they may have certain advantages. When you're a good-looking person, you have more opportunity because you attract more people. Mm-hmm. But more opportunity does not necessarily mean better relationships.
Right.
It doesn't mean better dates.
Right.
I agree with you. There's and you see this a lot in these speed dating events where you have good-looking people that show up, and most of actually the guests, and sometimes even me, go, wow, how come you're here? But a lot of factors.
That's a judgment,
that
Fritz.
is a judgment.
How come you're here?
You know what? Because we all do judge. On a certain level, everybody judges something.
Right.
Okay? And you do get that. So what you do tend to see in speed dating is that the good-looking people, even though they might be chosen by everybody, actually, there's a very interesting stat. Not all good-looking people get chosen by everybody. Mm-hmm. They might be very good-looking. They'll probably get an initial yes, and a minute into the conversation, it just dwindles away.
Really? Why?
Why? Because either they're not, quote-unquote, performing well enough. Mm-hmm. So either they're not asking questions, either they're just sitting there looking disinterested, or maybe they're just
so they figure their good looks will get them wherever they
Exactly.
need to go. Instead, they work maybe less hard. One texter at 71010 writes, "They're too picky." Is it true that, or is that just another one of those stereotypes that good-looking people are too picky?
You know what? I'll answer this because the stereotype actually holds up in this case.
Okay.
I have coached people who will tell me, because they themselves work out, regard themselves as very attractive, they will only date someone on their level or higher.
So if they consider themselves an 8 out of 10, they're only going to look for 8, 9s, or 10s.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And sometimes what defines an 8 or a 9 or a 10, that's where I get into the crux of it in coaching. Mm-hmm. Because I ask them to quantify it, and that's where people struggle, because they usually look for very superficial things,
Right.
but they don't necessarily look for things like, I want someone who's going to be a good step parent to my kids if we get serious.
But also, what about the value? You say, okay, they're fit, they go to the gym a lot. So, somewhere they value exercise as something, right? They value health and staying fit. So I can understand them wanting to date somebody who's like-minded, not necessarily like-looking, but at least like-minded.
That may be a part of it. Go ahead,
Well,
please.
I agree. The first thing I'd like to say is beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Oh, that's quite true.
So that's number one. You might think that you're an 8 or 9 or a 10, which if you do, good on you. That doesn't necessarily mean you're an 8, a 9, or a 10.
Right.
Now, so if you do think that, and I do prone, you should be thinking that you're always an 8, a 9, or a 10. So therefore, there is no one that's out of your league or out of your zone or out of your reach. It is definitely based on your own confidence and what you feel that you can attract. So to come back to someone who likes to work out and say, I do this and I do that and I go to the gym 5 times a day and I skydive and I blah, blah, blah. You might be, yes, looking for someone that does that, but the truth of the matter is that the values are what's more important. Looks do fade away at some point.
I think I think looks is the shallow part, that the attraction is there too. And somebody can be very attractive who's not an 8 or a 9, but becomes that to you because you get to know them and they have other things that you value. So, if you're attracted to somebody's mind and intellect and their values and their kindness and many other things that don't necessarily reflect that number 10, you're still attracted to them. They don't have to be a number 10. If all you're looking for is that number, you're going to be disappointed because eventually, that's not the only factor in attraction, that's for sure.
Agreed.
But the other thing too, you said, Fritz, that believe you're a 9 or a 10 and then seek out that. But what if you're really not? Like I know a couple of people, men, who won't date anyone who is not like supermodel gorgeous. But I look at them and I'm like, God, you're not even close to that. Like you're looking for a 10, you're not even a 3. Like, hello, and nor do you have much to offer. So I don't get that. And they're still single. Sorry, but they're not, that's another thing.
One of my standard rules in coaching, when your skill level is not up to your standards, that means you likely have a fear of intimacy. And you're looking for ways to stay out of dating and relationships.
Right.
So somebody who says, I will only date an X, Y, and Z, and they themselves have no ability to attract an X, Y, and Z, that isn't because their standards are too far out. It's that they're coming up with ways so that they stay out of dating completely because they have other issues that they probably need therapy for.
So we're going to open up the text lines here, 514-800 or 71010. And this is a good question, which we can certainly get to. What do you mean by good looking? For me, if a woman doesn't have a good body, I don't care how she looks like. In other words, it doesn't matter that she has a pretty face or anything like that. If she has to have a really good body, and that's enough. So that's how somebody else defines beauty for them.
What does he mean by good body?
Exactly. What does he mean by a good body? A good body for him might not be a good body for someone else. Is she curvy? Is she too skinny?
Right. What do you like? It's what you like.
Exactly.
Let's also remember that at one time, Marilyn Monroe was a sex symbol.
She was a 10. In today's world, she would be a plus-size model.
Okay, but
That's
in
the
today's world,
Yes.
would she still be considered a 10? And
Right.
then there was Twiggy, who had a very different type of body
Right.
that became desired as well.
Who today would be looked at as anorexic.
Exactly. So,
So there's all kinds
things
of
change
that's
over
right.
time.
That's right. So why do good-looking people have a hard time dating? And that's the question we're asking tonight. 514-800 or 71010. You're listening to Passion with me, Dr. Laurie.
She can help improve your love life in a few different ways. Passion with Dr. Laurie.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit and Fritz-Gerald of Elite Speed Dating in studio with us every month. The last Wednesday of every month, we focus just on dating issues. And one of the questions that Frank had posted on Facebook, and it's kind of fun to do this because we get to engage the whole community, is why are really good-looking people still single, or why do they seem to have issues? And we've seen studies that show that it is difficult. We've also seen studies that show that good-looking people are less likely to be faithful. And that is, if I remember correctly, the hypothesis, of course, is that there's many more options for them. So they tend not to work at it as hard, work at their primary relationship as hard.
One of the comments that was in that Facebook thread that we did was the fact that some people said, hey, I don't want to date somebody that's too good looking because I know that person's going to get hit on a lot and I don't want to be suspicious all the time that they may be cheating on me.
Okay, but that's their insecurity because they're not really trusting. You have to trust the partner you're with.
You have to trust the partner you're with, but if the person is very good looking, and I think that we talked about this once, there was a study that says, as you mentioned, that people who are very good looking, above average in looks, because they have so many options, because people are approaching them so much, they're less likely to be faithful. It's not impossible.
I don't think it's the approach. I didn't read it was about because they get approached. It's more because they have options that they figure, well, if you don't want me, or if this isn't good, then I can go somewhere else. Like there's an abundance of resources, in other words.
Self-entitlement, perhaps?
I don't know if it's entitlement or just this thinking that the resources are out there. They know they can get. They know they can get. So why work hard at what they have? Or they let go of things faster maybe, or break up faster, or, or find alternatives faster if they're not even, maybe if they don't have a satisfaction in their relationship, rather than work through what's going on in that relationship. It's a possibility. Look, it's one of those things.
I think you're right about the alternatives. They find alternatives much quicker than trying to stay and work at what their relationship is or where it's going.
Right. So a couple of texts here. I find that really pretty women have an attitude, almost feeling insulted that a regular schlub would dare to ask them for coffee. Like just some regular guy asking them for coffee. I don't know. Is that a stereotype?
I would say that there is a little bit of truth to it, only because in coaching men to go up and approach women, sometimes the rejections can be really harsh.
Like,
get away from me. I don't want to talk to anybody right now. And the guy wasn't doing anything in a creepy manner. He was just going up and saying, hi, I saw you from over there and I wanted to meet you. On the flip side of it, if you are constantly being approached and constantly bombarded with attention, sometimes, and especially if some of that attention is not positive attention, it can get tiresome.
Right.
And you may not always be in a pleasant and kind mood.
Right.
I would like to say from that comment, I think the premise itself, if you refer to yourself like a schlub, you're probably approaching her like a schlub. So therefore, the chances of you succeeding are less than average.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Frank can coach people about what to, even your average guy can show. Everybody has something interesting. In my books, everybody has something that they can showcase, let's say, or, whether it's, they may not be so good looking, but they have an incredible sense of humor, or they are very, ambitious or confident, or,
And I think you're making my point exactly, because what's a regular guy? Okay, what does that mean?
Yeah, that's true
in the first instance. So if you present yourself like I'm just a regular schmo, then what is so interesting about you that she needs to take 2 minutes out of her day to say, hey, yeah, he didn't make me laugh. He didn't make nothing. So if you're presenting yourself as that, then the chance of you succeeding are not probably as high as where if you're walking in already thinking, I might be looking like a regular Joe, but I have this, and this that works for me. I'm charming. I'm funny. I think that Brad Pitt is a 2 and I'm the 10. Therefore, there's a high, I'm not saying that it will work, but there's a higher probability of her at least responding
giving
to
some
you.
attention. Exactly. For me, I know sense of humor is a big thing. So somebody who right away shows that sense of humor and courage also is, with sense of humor can be very appealing. And you would give them more the time of day.
If you can show that you are charismatic.
Yeah, that's
and
the word.
The definition
Charisma.
of charismatic within my work. Make the other person feel a positive impression of you. At the same time, make them feel a positive feeling of themselves. If you can do that simultaneously, that's charisma. And when you're approaching somebody, approach them with that.
Right.
And look, if you're a really good-looking person, you do get a higher margin of error. People, if they find you attractive, are going to give you a chance if you maybe mess up a little bit, or if you say the wrong thing, but you meant something else and they figure it out. You get a higher margin of error when you're good looking. Sometimes that higher margin of error isn't enough.
Right. This text is interesting. I'm sorry, but I've been around the block as a bartender, and I can tell you that 3s don't get 10s. And the women who are 10 expect to get all their drinks for free, and that's the way it is. You're trying to tell me that this is going to work? Sorry, no. Fritz, sorry.
I
not going to work.
disagree with the bartender wholeheartedly.
Although this bartender has seen a lot.
I'm sure this bartender has seen a lot. Now, 3s, or what you would consider as a 3, they do get 10s.
You've seen it
I've seen it 100% that I've seen it. So what the bartender who works there and gets hit on all the time, probably, you have a different reference point.
I don't think it's about the bar. I think the bartender's observing what they see, not the fact that they're the ones being hit on.
Even if what does the bartender, first of all, consider as a 10? That's a number 1 again. But even, let's say a 10 that everybody says that's a 10. She's a 10. There's no way that she can get a 3. I completely disagree with that. Because I've seen, with data on top of it, speed dating, a person who came in and would strike out all the time. So arguably, you would call him a 3. By the time
in a bar.
We were at a bar at one of the speed datings that we do. Our speed dating is at Rouge, which is a bar in the city.
In Montreal.
And therefore, he came in by his 6th speed dating seance because we give him tips on how to improve her. He got feedback. Not only was he a 3 at the beginning, 6 speed datings later, he's getting the 10. And he got chosen by all the 10s. So I completely disagree.
Right. There's a coaching element then.
There's a coaching element. And to support what this bartender is saying, if you're basing it strictly on looks, without any coaching, just people who are fumbling through, that 3 probably is not going to get a 10. Unless he has something else going for him. So somebody who maybe looks like a 3, but they have other things going for him. Look, a 3 can end up with a 10 if he has a lot of money and she's a gold digger. Okay, let's be realistic here. And I get exactly what the bartender is saying. I'm coming from a position, though, where you can coach somebody to appear more than just what their physical body is.
Right.
And if you give into that, there's always that higher chance.
So let me share some more text. 514-800 or 71010. I resent that notion. I've been pursued all my life and still am at 52, yet always had good morals and values and always remained loyal, faithful, and worked at my relationship despite the numerous options available to me. Listen, I know people like that you all the time. I'm 100% with you on that one.
Bravo.
It is your behavior, your morals, all of that keeps you in check. But when studies are done and they're done with large groups of people, we see more, they're comparing 2 groups. They're just comparing 2 groups. They're not saying all good-looking people do this, but good-looking people are more likely to. Just more likely to, more than the average. So not everybody. So let's not put everybody in the same basket. Here's a question for you. Do you think that a relationship in which one person feels they settled can last? Frank, that's a good one for you.
It would depend on the differences between what you would consider settling and something where you really are willing to negotiate on. If you're settling for something that is completely counter what one of your values is or something that's very important to you, there's going to be resentment there, and that's going to build up.
Right.
If the resentment isn't addressed, then no, the relationship can't last. So if we're talking about something that I have an ideal, and my ideal is I want to be with someone who exercises 3 times a week. Okay, that's my ideal. But it's not necessarily something I'm attached to, and the person I'm dating doesn't exercise at all, but they keep healthy by eating nutrition. That's not settling, because it wasn't something that was extra important to you to begin with.
I think a lot of situations where they're settling, they're actually talking about the person is really good on pay, like they fit exactly what I want, but the attraction is not so there.
In that case, there's ways to create that chemistry. There's ways to create attraction. But most people aren't interested in going through the motions. They want the feelings first before they take the action. And that's not the way it works. You have to take the action first. Feelings come after.
Sometimes we should look at arranged marriages and how those work, because there's many in the world, and they'll tell you that the attraction comes after everything on paper works out.
Right. In my personal opinion, I just have, it's actually a word that I don't use a lot.
The word settling?
The word settling,
yeah,
because
that's
I think
you're
it
a
has
lawyer,
a negative.
that's why.
Yes.
By day.
There's a negative connotation to settling. And by the way that the question was framed, I would say chances are if you're settling on something, that means there's something that you're not happy about. So chances are in the long run,
you'll keep
bringing it
harping
back.
that. Exactly. Yes, you'll keep on that for sure. More dating dilemmas coming up. Why are good-looking people still single? You answer that question. 514-800 or 71010 here on Passion.
The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
Whether you need to learn how to talk or something more hands-on, she can help. Passion with Dr. Laurie.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program, where we focus on your dating issues. Frank Kermit in studio as well as Fritz-Gerald Morisseau of Elite Speed Dating. EliteSpeedDating.com has events both in Montreal and in Toronto, so you can sign up and wait and hear when the events will happen. And Frank can be reached at FrankTalks.com, where you can see all kinds of books that he's written, as well as get information about specific dating coaching. So we are taking your texts at 514-800 or 71010 on the question, why are really good-looking people still single? And whatever other questions you have about dating, by the way. So here's one. There's a stigma whereby if someone is good-looking, people assume that they are taken and hesitate to approach them and start a conversation. That's a possibility too, right? Approachability.
Well, it comes down to the fear of rejection. Who should I approach? Now, if I approach that person, but that person's really good looking, they may very well be taken already. Because I want to approach him, I figure everybody else does. Maybe I'll go approach somebody else who I think would more likely say yes.
Right.
If you don't fear rejection, you can approach whoever you want.
Right.
But if you do have a fear of rejection, most people do, they're going to rationalize every reason not to get hurt.
Right. Another texter writes, an average-looking person finds a 9 intimidating, that they are out of their league, so they won't even approach them because no one likes to be rejected. Exactly what you just said. Women like the bad boys and then wonder why they get one. Why they end up with one, right? I think the bad boy part of it is the confidence. Like, I often look at that with women, and what is it about? It's true. They are looking for the confidence. They want to feel a certain safety with that confidence. But if they pick wrong and they have the bad side to it, then of course they end up with the narcissist, the sociopath, the who is very manipulative and can sell you a really good game.
One of the things that I teach nice guys, because nice guys are going to ask me, why would a girl not date me but date that jerk who's horrible to her?
Right.
Here's the answer, folks. You ready for this? Because the jerk, the bad boy, is so assertive, but too much. The nice guy is not assertive enough.
Right.
So, if you're a woman, who are you going to respond to? I didn't say who you would like. Who are you going to respond to? If you respond to assertive men, you're going to go to the one that's too assertive and not assertive enough.
If you have to choose between one or the other.
About who you respond to, there is no choice.
Right.
There's no choice in attraction. You will respond to the person. If you respond to a man who's very assertive, you'll always go for the bad boy because the bad boy is a bit too assertive, as opposed to the nice guy, which is not assertive enough.
Right.
So basically, you're going with the devil for the simple reason that the angel is just too nice and is not meeting your needs.
So let's just be clear. There are men out there who are both assertive and nice.
And that's
Agreed.
I married one, so I want to just point that out.
and this is the thing I want nice guys to understand. Guys, she would want to be with you. You just have to be more assertive, but you don't have to be a jerk. If you can be a nice guy, a good man who is assertive, women will adore you.
All right. On that note, here's another texter who writes, when you are attractive, you inadvertently become prey. This makes it more difficult to find a real relationship. So sometimes women, especially women, can feel like they are prey.
Anybody who's got something that other people want, whether it's money, good looks, and so on, their guard has to be up.
Right.
Because everybody's trying to get a piece of you.
It gets a little
Disagree,
tiring to tell you the
because
truth.
everybody who does want a piece of you, then you have the luck of you can choose. You have the benefit of picking.
Yes, but what Frank brought up earlier was that it can get pretty annoying when maybe every Tom, Dick, and Harry approaches you.
Let's also remember, let's be clear here, okay? Let's be clear here. If let's say you were talking about someone who's really attractive, yes, you're going to have a lot of people approaching you, but how many of these people are approaching you just because they want the validation of saying, I'm with the hot one? And they don't really care about you. So you're taking a chance.
That's the trophy, being the trophy.
Not everybody wants to be used for their looks, the same way that if somebody has money and they're wondering, does this person who wants to date me, do they want to date me or do they want to date my wallet?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to be on guard. And yes, you get to choose, but you also have to filter. This is why you even have some businesses like matchmaking, which are set up to be the filter to make sure that you don't end up getting used.
Right.
So I agree with you, the getting used part, but those are things that you find out along the way. Initially, when you're getting approached, you do have to have a certain flair on at least trying to decipher if you are that attractive person like I was or am.
What do you mean?
To decipher like what she's into. Like
that's not always easy to do. People are some people can put up a really good front at the beginning and just show you what they think you want to see, and there's a lot of crap to go through to get to the core. Like to figure that out, and it can take some time sometimes.
People who are really good at manipulating other human beings can get away with a lot, and you don't always see the signs. The only way to really combat being manipulated is to have a set of standards and rules that you follow yourself, and you follow them hardcore. But following those rules sometimes, although they keep you safe, could end up pushing other people away who maybe just aren't ready to deal with your standoffishness.
So can we get to some other questions here? What is and how do you define assertive?
Assertive, the ability to take actions that are in your best interest. And if we don't want to be too assertive, when those actions do not interfere with the ability for others to do what it is they want to do.
In a positive and respectful manner.
In a positive and respectful manner. So being assertive. Assertive, I want X in my life. I want to go and meet that person over there. I'm going to be assertive and I'm going to walk over and say hello. Yes, there may be a bit of a sting socially. Yes, people might even make fun of me because I'm being assertive. But you're willing to accept the consequences of going for what you want.
Right. Taking the risk. So being willing to take risks as well.
Yes, there's being willing to take risks. What I like to say is be willing to take action. So do something. There's something, not a lot of people actually take the steps to doing something.
Right. They just say, I wish, but they don't actually do anything to get to that point.
Exactly.
Right. That's quite true. You can have all the positive thinking in the world. It will get you
take action.
nowhere if you don't take the action. It's not going to walk into your life. You actually have to do something. Bartender again says there are studies done about women who divorced after a certain length of time. When they asked, did you wish your husband was funnier or better looking? They all said better looking. Yeah, but that's only two factors that, doesn't explain the whole story.
They all said better looking?
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure which study this is, but anyway, there are way too many factors in divorce that it doesn't just come down to not enough humor, not enough.
And I don't know. You're asking divorced people if they're divorced. That means there was a problem. So probably they don't have a good response of their person they divorced to.
Probably. Exactly. What's the difference between assertiveness and creepiness?
Okay, assertiveness. I'm going to go for what I want. Creepiness. Doing it in a way that doesn't make the other person feel safe.
Right. Doing it so that you make the other person uncomfortable. But you have to know, you have to be sensitive enough to know when you're coming off creepy. And that's also part of being assertive and confident.
And having the charisma. Remember, the definition of charisma. Not only am I going to present a positive image of myself, I'm going to make you feel good about yourself. If somebody's not feeling safe, they can't feel good about you.
Right.
And they're not feeling very good about themselves in that moment because they're feeling unsafe.
Right, exactly. Here, this texter writes, the bartenders can only talk about the people who hang out in bars. Some of us never do. Very true. Another texter writes, a Russian woman, there's a Russian saying, I guess, good man is not your man. It means he is everyone else's man, not yours. I'm not sure what that Russian saying is about, but anyway. Another text says, I will take charm and personality over good looks any day. Looks fade, charm and personality gets better with age. It's true. Good looks don't sustain a relationship. Other factors sustain a relationship.
Let's also remember that there's a difference between who you can attract for sex and who you can attract for a relationship. If we're talking here just about sex and dating and something, a one-night stand, a friends with benefits, being good looking is definitely going to help. If you're talking about the qualities that people seek in a more serious relationship, dating towards a serious commitment.
I always saw that we always heard that bad boys finish or nice guys finish last, but they actually finish first in the relationship department, last in the sex department. So the bad boys get more sex, but the nice guys end up in the long-term relationships that they seek out.
And according to that bartender, those nice guys also end up getting divorced when the women leave them.
Only if they marry way up. I guess. I don't know. Oh, complicated. Coming up, we'll answer the question, can charisma be learned? Can confidence be learned? I have a feeling the answer is yes on this, but we'll find out from our dating coaches here, Frank Kermit and Fritz-Gerald of Elite Speed Dating. You're listening to Dating Dilemmas, our monthly feature here on Passion.
This is Passion with Dr. Laurie.
Tonight on the program, Dating Dilemmas, we are asking the question, we're exploring the question about why really good-looking people might still be single, and studies show they have a hard time dating for different reasons, right? 514-800 or 71010. We'll also take your dating questions, so any questions that you have, we call this feature Dating Dilemmas. Been on now. We've been doing this for 8 years or so, and the last Wednesday of every month. Let's see. What do we have here? Oh, yes, we the question, can charisma be learned? Can confidence be learned?
Yes and yes. Go to FrankTalks.com. I actually have a book called From Creepy to Charisma.
Oh, there you go.
It's called The Art of Calibration. And all you're doing
What does calibration mean?
You put people into categories and you modify your behavior based on those categories.
Give me like an example of that.
Okay, let's use a really extreme example. The way you act at a wedding is not the same way you act at a funeral.
Mm-hmm.
That's calibration. Well, the way you're going to approach somebody in a bar where everybody's got a drink is very different than the way you're going to approach somebody in a library.
Okay.
You're calibrating. When you mess up on your calibration, the people who you are approaching might feel unsafe. That's where it gets creepy.
Right.
It's not appropriate for that setting.
Right.
So you're in one setting and you're making certain tasteless jokes. You're the life of the party. Make those same tasteless jokes in another setting. You're creepy.
Right.
That's all it is. That's how everybody can learn to be a little bit more charismatic.
So just that
one
point
thing
right there.
That one thing is already going to push you to the forefront of what it is to have some level of charisma.
So I think part of it is understanding that your behavior is creepy. You know, sometimes do men actually not realize that they're being creepy? Like, who tells them?
Well, they're not necessarily told. There's very few people who may say, wow, you're a creep. They might get rejected, but they might not be told why they're rejected. And the fact is, not everybody can articulate what they're feeling. All they know is, I don't like this. That's what they know.
Right.
But they may not be able to articulate it.
I just want to say something really quick. I'm not defending creepy men. Okay.
Okay.
But not only men are creepy, women are creepy too.
Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. You're right. Okay.
So
Yes.
one needs to know when one is acting inappropriately / going to a creepy side. Either I would put stalking maybe in a creepy kind of way.
That's the extreme creep to me.
Or-
The stalking is extreme creepiness. That's scary. That's
That
like
is scary.
there's scary and there's creepy. One kind of makes you cringe, the other makes you fear for your life. Like to me that's very different. For example, for me, if I'm in a I don't know, let's say I'm with my girlfriends at a resto bar, which, I usually go once a week, whatever, we all hang out. If some guy were to come very, very close, like into my personal space and talk to me in my ear, to me, that would be completely creepy.
Another thing that could be creepy, possibly scary, when a person assumes a higher level of commitment than the dating has indicated. So 2 people have gone out on 3 dates, and one person assumes, hey, we're exclusive, without actually having a conversation to say
About it, right.
yeah.
So that can throw you off, actually. That could be
that
creepy.
could be creepy.
I like this. This person writes, creepy or president of the United States? Or one and the same. Exactly. All right, here's another one, and maybe we'll end on this one. Been conversing with someone over the dating lines for approximately 4 months now. What started off as a casual friendship blossomed into a deep, affectionate, and authentic romance, but we haven't met. What was once a casual desire to meet on our behalves has now turned into a terrifying experience for myself, given I'm terrified of having to regress if there's no physical chemistry to sustain our romantic feelings. That's a very good point, because that is a reality or a potential reality. We hear this a lot. Relationships that start online and that develop, not just start, but develop online, you can get a real false sense of intimacy. Really false sense, because what happens when you do meet in person? You can't really develop, I don't believe, true intimacy until you meet in person. And often what happens is you have lots of chemistry online when you have a computer screen between the two of you, and sometimes like Zippo nothing when you meet in person, because the person doesn't interact in the same way with you. Maybe they're charismatic online or appear to be, but meeting in person, they're totally creepy.
Let's also remember, online communication forces you to fill in the gaps with elements of yourself. You don't get the other person's tonality. You don't get the other person's body odor. You don't get the other person's facial expressions if all you're doing is texting. So you have to fill it in with elements of yourself, your fantasy. And I'm saying this in the nicest way possible, okay? The only reason you would be that terrified to meet is because you're terrified that you're going to lose your fantasy. Because the reality of a relationship is, you meet somebody, you want to be with them as much as you can. All right, what's that line from the movie? When you meet somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with, you want the rest of your life to start as soon as possible.
Right. That's true.
If you're worried about meeting the person because of what you might lose, that right there is a sign that this is not real. You're worried about losing this fantasy. If it's real, you want to be with that person. You can't wait to see that person. You hate having to go to work because you're going to be away from that person.
But they might have those same feelings about the online connection, right? They can't wait to be online with them. They can't wait to converse with them online. But it's a false sense of intimacy.
If that is all you want.
Or on the phone. They're talking about having a thing, even on the phone. On the phone, it's a little bit better because you have tonality and everything, but what about the chemistry?
No, look, no offense, but your feelings are real. The relationship may not be. Meet up in person, figure it out, because right now you're both wasting time, and that's something you don't get back.
Or what you could do to be in a safe environment, why don't you both register for speed dating? And therefore, you can meet 5 minutes, and you have an excuse to walk away
to bow
from
out.
each other.
Yeah.
If
well,
that's not the case.
At least you have an idea if there's some level of chemistry, something.
Correct.
That's why I like the whole idea of speed dating. Is that the studies have shown you make up your mind within minutes of meeting somebody. Actually,
Yes.
Whether you even want to continue a conversation or don't want to continue a conversation. So I'm all for speed dating for that very reason. I think it's quite effective in that way. It may take several events before you with different people and a rotation before you get lucky or get not lucky, but find the matches, but you're learning also how to filter better.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%.
So that's helpful as well. Now, unfortunately, I don't think we have time to answer this question, but we got a listener from Ireland, so that's fun. Wants to know how to date a 10, and I don't know if you can even answer this in a minute or less.
Okay. He talks about how she walks around the office like she's acting like she's the center of the universe to get everybody's attention, blah, blah, blah.
Now he wants to give her attention.
Okay. Number one, don't do what everybody else is doing. Okay. First thing, if you're working with her, don't date a coworker. Anything you want to do romantic wise, you want to do it outside of the place. You definitely want to use humor. You want to give her emotional range, because if she's looking for attention, that is a sign that she has the emotional need of emotional range. So rather than just give her attention and say, wow, you're beautiful, you want to go in there, you want to use humor, you want to keep her a little bit off balance.
You also have to stand out.
And you have to be really assertive, because if she really loves that attention, she needs to be with a guy who demonstrates that he's assertive enough that he can handle that she gets attention.
Right. And just one last word from a texter. All I know is when I was young, girls always said there's no nice guys out there. There are tons of them. You don't want nice guys. They're the guys you complain to after riding a jerk and not getting a call. So there are nice guys out there. Let me just say that. And nice girls. There you go. Thank you guys so much. We will catch up with you again at the end of May. Thanks to all our texters. Great texts tonight and great questions. Thank you to our technical crew in Montreal and in Toronto. If you want to get in touch with me, you can do that through my website, drlaurie.com, and of course through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. My last name spelled Betito. And we'll talk again tomorrow evening when we discuss the law and divorce with Maître Linda Hammerschmidt. Right now, stay tuned for the comedy show with your very funny host, Joey Elias. Have a great rest of the evening, and remember to fill your life with passion.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit FrankTalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar, the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at FrankTalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to FrankTalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to FrankTalks.com. FrankTalks.com.